Watch more programs like this on cable and stream with PCN Select. Subscribe at PCNTV.com. This program has been paid for by the sponsor and does not reflect the views of PCN.
Welcome to another edition of PHRC Speaks, Fair Housing in the 21st Century. I'm your host, Adrian Garcia, Director of the Fair Housing and Commercial Property Division for the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. Today, we're going to be speaking to our guest, Susan Tachau, who co-funded the Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Foundation in 1998 and has served as its Chief Executive Officer since 2003. PATF is a state-accredited and federally certified community development financial institution, or CDFI, and it focuses its lending on helping individuals with disabilities in older Pennsylvanians finance the assistive technology devices and services that improves the quality of their lives. PATF is also the Commonwealth's Alternative Financing Program, as designated by the Federal Assistive Technology Act. In addition to providing financing for assistive technology, PATF provides information and assistance, services, and financial education opportunities. Tracey Beck is PATF's Lending and Operations Director. She is responsible for implementing policies and procedures that expand opportunities for accessing assistive technology devices, as well as managing the day-to-day operations of the loan program. Tracey Beck has over 25 years experience in the social service and education field. Her area of expertise is in program design and evaluation and housing for people with disabilities. Now, Susan and Tracey are co-authors of PATF's financial education book, Sense and Sensibility, A Guide to Money Management, and PATF's Funding Your Assistive Technology, A Guide to Funding Resources in Pennsylvania. And with that, we're going to welcome both Susan and Tracey to PHRC Speaks. Welcome, ladies.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you, Adrian, for inviting us to appear on your show. You did a marvelous job of kind of giving a summary of who we are. And I noticed that there's an awful lot of talk about assistive technology. So I should probably explain that, because Congress made up this term like 30 years ago, and most people don't know what it means. But assistive technology is any device that helps a person with a disability do the things they want to do. There's a more formal definition that it says, a device that's off the shelf or customized that helps a person increase their function. But essentially, it's any device that's going to help you do the things you want to do where you want to do them. So examples include hearing aids, wheelchairs and scooters, but also home modifications. So like a ramp in and out of a home, a stair lift, a porch lift, a widened doorways, lowered kitchen counters, and some of the newer stuff, the smart home devices such as speakers and smart door locks, temperature control units. All of that is assistive technology. There's not a definitive list. And you'll be happy to know also, it's not the medical model. And that means that a person with a disability or a senior can tell us what is the device that makes a difference in their life. And it doesn't have to be tied to a system. Like my son, who's 40 and is a wheelchair user, if he's getting his equipment paid for by insurance, it has to fall within that durable medical equipment. And so, the wheelchair, that would fall into it. But we have helped families who have a child who has autism and they want to explore the outside and they need a fence to make sure that that child can explore safely and not run into the street. And that parents can also, and family members can have gatherings and know that that child can also play and participate outside and be safe. So that fence, it can be termed as assistive technology. So I kind of hope that helps, because what we do as a program is we do 3 things, all having to do with assistive technology. We talk about funding resources here in Pennsylvania, because it's always a mystery of where did you get that piece of equipment, or who helped you fund, that ramp, or how do I get, a roll-in shower? So we talk about funding resources. We talk about financial education, because almost no one in Pennsylvania knows the details of those components of financial education that are of particular importance to people with disabilities. So, looking at programs here in Pennsylvania, grant programs, asset limitations, what does a guardianship mean, or powers of attorney? People, that's not what typical banks and credit unions talk about. And then thirdly, and most importantly, and this is what Tracey can talk about, is that we have a loan program. So as you mentioned, we're a community development financial institution, a CDFI, the only one in Pennsylvania that focuses only on consumer lending. So we use the grant monies we get from the U.S. Treasury to promote these programs without any fees. No fees whatsoever. No application fee, no origination fee, no closing costs, because we want to help you get that technology that you want. So Tracey, do you want me to talk about those 2 programs, or you want to talk about the 2 programs and give examples? How's that?
I'll talk about the loan programs.
Okay.
So we offer a couple of loan programs, and we're very excited because last year we started a pilot program. We have a 0% loan that goes from $100 to $7,000, 0%, no fees, and that has really taken off. And in that program, we have funded things, and Susan mentioned hearing aids, lots of durable medical equipment, so things like walkers that may not be covered under insurance, or scooters, seat lift chairs, grab bars. One of the more unusual things that we have funded is a Nintendo Wii. So a woman who has MS, and she also has agoraphobia, so she couldn't leave the house, she wanted to exercise. So she took out a mini loan. That's what we call our 0% loan program. She took out a mini loan to purchase the Nintendo Wii. So really, Adrienne, as long as someone can tell us why a device is assistive technology for them, we would be willing to consider extending a loan. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say assistive technology not only includes devices, but it also includes services. So, for example, if someone is newly injured and they needed to relearn how to drive, our loan could cover driving lessons for them. So that is an example of a service.
Well, we've also funded, Tracey, remember, architectural drawings and things of that, and warranties to some of the assistive technology.
Right. So if someone is doing an accessible home modification, they don't know where to start, they have to hire a designer or an architect, that would be an assistive technology service that we could cover with our loan. So that's the 0% loan. Anything that is $7,000 to $60,000, we offer a low interest loan, 3.75%, again, no fees. We base the loan term on the piece of the device. So let's say we're extending a loan for a hearing aid. We would probably go out 3 or 4 years for the loan term. And, we look at the warranty, we look at really the longevity of that piece of device to determine the loan term. But we have an application, a loan application, which is fairly simple to fill out. Yes, it is 8 pages, which sounds daunting, but it really isn't. It can be downloaded as a PDF. It can be filled out as an e-application, and it can also be mailed in the old-fashioned USPS way. And what we do is we review the application, make sure we have all of the information. And if it is a low interest loan, we work with one of our partner banks. So those are the loans up to $60,000. So we work with a partner bank, send them the loan application. If the loan is approved by the bank, great. They do all of the closing and they take care of all of that. If the bank comes back and says, you know what, I am really sorry, this person's credit is not up to our standards, or they have a higher debt to income, then what we will do is review those reasons with the applicant and then send out a credit summary to our board of directors, who will vote whether or not PATF will guarantee or back that loan. So this is what makes us different from a bank or credit union, because we know that people with disabilities may have medical collections. There may be times where there may be a job loss, or something related to their disability. So we see those blips in the credit report, and we're able to explain that to our board of directors. So if PATF guarantees a loan, we can extend up to $35,000, still at 3.75%.
My next question would be, who's eligible for this? What are the limitations for someone not being eligible for this?
Well, that's a good question, because we're unique in that kind of all is all. So all people with disabilities or health conditions, having a footprint in Pennsylvania. So most people live here, but occasionally, because there's not a program in Ohio or New Jersey or West Virginia, if they're working in Pennsylvania, or if a relative who lives in Pennsylvania wants to be a co-applicant. So as long as there's a footprint, all disabilities, all ages, all income levels, and all cultural backgrounds. So really all is all. And I think one of the things I wanted just to kind of intersect with Tracey is that she was talking a little bit about some of the smaller devices with a low interest loan, but we do home equity loans, and those go out 10 years. So, in between, there is room to negotiate. What can you afford? Because the majority of people last year, and we just did our data collection for the U.S. Treasury, last year, 88% of our borrowers were very low income, or extremely low income, 88%. And the way we make it affordable is that, we're asking you, what can you afford? And as long as you have been discharged from a bankruptcy for 1 year, then we're going to do our best to help you finance this assistive technology. We combine it, as you mentioned, one of our programs is funding your assistive technology. So we have a new book, our second edition that came out this fall, Funding Your Assistive Technology. So we do talk about those grant programs that exist in Pennsylvania or other foundations. So for example, the Achieve a Family Trust, which is an organization that works with people with disabilities on special needs trusts, they have a residual fund for when people die and there's money left in their pooled trust, they will give that out as grant money. You have to know about it, but it's statewide. So you can apply to them, and they can often help provide, partial funding. So we're going to help people cobble together funding to make it as affordable as possible.
I'm curious as to, with these great programs, how many people do you serve on an annual basis? I mean, you talked about 88% of the loans that you provide are people that are either very low income or I would imagine in that 30%, 50%, 20% area median income. How many people do you serve a year, do you think?
Well, we give about 200 to 250 new loans a year, but then we help another 1,400 people with information and assistance services, unduplicated. So if you're coming to us for information and assistance, we may talk to you 2 or 3 or 4 times with different strategies. We count you once. Mm-hmm. So that's 1,400. But then we close loans about 200 and 250. The pandemic has impacted our program. People, the job market is not bouncing back as strong for people with disabilities. People are going to hold on to their money because we don't know how long it's working. Some of the state agencies that help people with disabilities with employment, such as the Office for Vocational Rehabilitation, by the way, and they will pay for assistive technology, they close their offices for months, and they're really down counselors. So we see a direct impact on that because they will do some funding of assistive technology, and then we do the gap.
Sure.
So, for example, the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, which I get very excited about, they were the first public funder of smart home devices in Pennsylvania. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
So it's not our insurance companies or our home and community-based waiver programs that are doing the smart door locks. And that's something that's really easy, of housing authorities and landlords putting in smart door locks so that people can actually lock their door and unlock it with their phone or their iPad, putting in smart switches so that you can control your lights or your fan, putting in, smart thermostats so you control. I think one of the ways we first got involved with smart home devices is that we got a phone call from a son who lived in Virginia, and his older mother was living in an apartment. She was Tracey, like in her 80s or something?
90s.
And was, by the way, a little cranky. And she had just announced she was moving down to Virginia. Oh, no, said that son. And why was it? Well, because her caregiver came into her apartment every day. And you know how some older people keep that thermostat up in their 80s? Mm. The caregiver came in and lowered it to the low 70s every day. And so she was cold. And so she was getting out of Dodge, so to speak. She was going to go live with her son. Oh, no. So they came to us, and we helped finance a smart thermostat so that the son could lock it. And if that caregiver came in and tried to lower it, he raised it back up, and he could make a phone call and say, I know you're freezing my mother. And so this older woman, he paid back. It was a very small loan. I think it was $250, 0% interest, 0 fees, like literally just get that device. Don't put it on a credit card. They were able to get that device, and the older lady, the mother, could stay up here in Pennsylvania, which is really what she wanted to do. She just didn't want to freeze. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the conversations we will have with people. So we know the situation. We knew this person wasn't going to default on that loan because they didn't want the mother coming down. But, assistive technology is so important to people that our default rate, and that I'm sure was one of your other questions.
Yes, you read my mind.
Is really, really low. The only people who default, they die. And as a consumer lender, you count that as a default, although it's not a skunk. Mm-hmm. We have very few people who walk away from their loans because this stuff is important. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the reasons we're in this business, is that we can recycle this money as people pay us back. We can recycle it. There is no waiting list for our program. We are open for business. We have plenty of capital to give out. And as Tracey mentioned, if we need to, for a larger loan, If we need to attach a guarantee, like our promise that this loan will be paid back, our board is very flexible. The majority of our board members are individuals with disabilities, including seniors, or immediate family members. So we know, for example, with my son who lives in his own home, I know that these loans are important. I know that housing loans are important. I do not want Michael to move back into our house. He doesn't want it either. But I will tell you that when that electric door opener didn't work last winter, we were looking around quickly for who could help us, because just as a health and safety issue, we needed to have him be able to open that door and get out of the house should there be a fire. That's the kind of stuff we can do. We, in no way do we want our borrowers or our applicants to ever be forced to make a decision of moving out of their home into a nursing home because they don't have access to that assistive technology. The other thing that's a real big priority for us is employment. So if our device can help someone with a job, either obtain or maintain a job, our board is more likely to take a risk, just like for all the housing loans. We want people to be able to afford to live in their own home and make it however accessible it needs to be, or to be able to move into their own home. Those are the two areas that we will take high risk on.
It's certainly clear to me that there's a passion behind the work that you both do. Where does that come from? How do you all get started in this? I mean, where's that passion come from?
Well, since I'm a little more extroverted than Tracey, I'll go first. My son was born almost 40 years ago, and he was a preemie. And as a result of the complications at birth, he has cerebral palsy and is a wheelchair user. We were first-time parents, my husband and I, and we didn't know anything. And 40 years ago, just if you're counting, it's 1982. And so what it meant was, as a young parent, and I was 27, you didn't have the right to education. So I didn't go to school with anyone with a disability. I mean, if you had a hearing loss, if you just wore a hearing aid, you went to a different school.
Yeah. So
I didn't know about inclusion until Michael was born. And then it was like, I'm passionate about it. I mean, Michael should have every opportunity that I have, that my younger daughters should have, to be part of this community. He certainly can contribute. He certainly wants to contribute. And, you know, our very first orientation was going into a preschool that had kids with and without disabilities. So since I didn't know much about parenting to begin with, I then learned how important inclusion is with supports, 100% with supports. And for many people, assistive technology and knowing how to use that assistive technology, all of that supports. So that's really where my passion came from. But Tracey has a different life experience.
Well, it's funny, Adrienne, that you say, did you wake up one day? And really, that's kind of what happened to me. Ages ago, 100 years ago, when I was 14 or 15, I started volunteering at an Easter Seals camp. And that is kind of what lit my fire to get into this disability field. So I started off working, teaching children with autism. Then I decided to go to a nonprofit. I've been to a couple of nonprofits and ended up at PATF. So, you know, for years and years, it's just really, while I don't have an immediate family member who has a significant disability, it's really, really important to me to help support all people, including people with disabilities.
Are you finding more of the developers becoming interested in smart technology or assistive technology? So I'm wondering if people are seeking out from you education. Do you provide education to corporations, developers, and municipalities and so on?
We do. And that's a really good question, because I think this is where the really innovative people rise to the top. So we have worked with several developers, and we have a close partnership with Regional Housing Legal Services, for example. And we've been talking for a couple of years about smart devices, as an example. And there are two places that we know where the housing authorities, when they're doing new construction, at the bare minimum, they're putting in smart switches and smart door locks. The problem is if you're doing whatever it's called, boilerplate planning, and this has worked, and they're not dreaming about the future, then they're not putting in anything that's compatible. But the internet is the future. I mean, Congress is looking at broadband, making sure everyone has access. There are some new programs that just started January 1st of this year, 2022, to give people additional subsidies for the internet. That allows people control. So one of the things that's missing in kind of a housing conversation is who's going to have control over their life. Sometimes housers are thinking only of the brick and mortar, and they're not talking or thinking about the people who live in that apartment and what kind of control they want. They want, I can assure you, to be able to control their environment and who comes and goes from their apartment. So in Philadelphia, where I'm based, we know, and I will tell you, Michael does this, our son does this too, his attendants come and go, and he cannot independently operate a doorknob. So he just leaves the door open all day long, real safe. So a smart lock solves that problem. Again, the older lady who wanted to control her temperature, that's such an easy device to put in, to be able to turn on and off your lights yourself with a switch. That's safety. It's independence, it's safety. So we've worked with a couple of developers here in Philadelphia. Inglis, for example, has been doing a lot more with smart home. Up in Bloomsburg, a lot with smart home. I think he was, he was the first one to really do it. It's really making sure that you're thinking about the future, not just today, and who might live in these apartments. And, I won't speak for Tracey, but I'm an old goat. I mean, we had computers in graduate school where you did your cards and then you walked to another building and put those cards in to see if your program worked. Today, however, everybody in their 20s and 30s, they understand computers. Yeah. The future is going to be smart environments. So building them in, just the easiest thing are smart switches. If you can just put in a smart switch and go a little further and put in a smart door lock that you can get, get it online. That will get you carried into that future.
So we've gotten to the end of our program. I want to thank you both for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us here on PHRC Speaks. I've enjoyed speaking to you, and this will not be the first time that we'll be speaking because I'm sure that there's a lot more we can cover in this subject. So thanks again for being part of this program. And so for our listening audience, our viewing audience, I just want to say that all of the information that we provide is looking at housing and fair housing in a 360 model, anything in and around housing. We've heard today by these two guests regarding smart technologies and how it can benefit individuals with disability and how important it is for aging in place. So if you believe that you've been a victim of discrimination, or if you'd like more information, please give us a call. You can reach us through our internet address at www.phrc.pa.gov, or you can call us at 717-787-9780. We're also easy to find online on Facebook, PA Human Relations Commission, and Twitter at PA HumRelCom. And that's it for this edition of PHRC Speaks. Until next time, take care, be good, and be fair to each other.
This program has been paid for by the sponsor and does not reflect the views of PCN. To get your program on PCN Fusion and for more information, contact info@pcntv.com.